Scottish football has been home to some disastrous managers. Stephen Glass at Aberdeen, Ian Cathro at Hearts, Derek Adams' most recent stint at Ross County, and one I take great pleasure in saying, Peter Grant at Dunfermline. However bad these managerial stints were, clubs are typically able to recover within a short time frame, or at worst a year after in the case of getting relegated. There is a managerial appointment out there that was so bad it set a club back nearly half a decade, however, and that was the hiring of Claude the Fraud Anelka. In just 10 league games, Anelka had turned Raith into a laughingstock, effectively relegating them by September. In this video, we'll be looking at how this situation came about, what went on during his time in Kirkcaldy, and what the effects of this Fife French Revolution were. First, who is Claude Anelka, and how did he end up in Kirkcaldy? When people talk about the Anelka name in football, they are usually referring to Nicolas Anelka, a professional footballer who played for some of the biggest clubs such as Arsenal, Chelsea and Real Madrid, along with having scored 14 goals for France in 69 games. Would be more, but there was a whole South African meltdown where the French national team decided to be extra French and go on strike. Claude, meanwhile, is Nicolas's older brother and did play professionally, but only in the lower leagues of French football for clubs Versailles, Paris FC, not PSG, and Choisy-le-Roi. Claude, however, would find success through his younger brother as he would become Nicolas's agent, and through his brother's success, he would earn his wealth. Claude wanted more, however. He wanted control over a football club, and he would get his opportunity on the Costa del Fife. In the 1990s, Raith were in their golden era. A First Division win in the 92-93 season was followed by relegation, but Raith bounced back by winning the First Division again in the 94-95 season. But this would be overshadowed by the fact that they beat Celtic at Ibrox in the League Cup final, ensuring a place in the next season's UEFA Cup. This European tour for Raith involved wins against Gotu Etrotaferag of the Faroe Islands, Ifrotabandalag Akranes of Iceland, before going up against Bayern Munich of Germany. Raith would lose 2-0 at home, and by at home I mean Easter Road, before playing at the Olympiastadion in Munich. Whilst they would lead 1-0 at half-time through a Danny Lennon free kick, Bayern would come back to win 2-1, and they would go on to win the tournament. These times would come to an end, however, with relegation from the top flight coming in 1997, with a further relegation coming in 2002, sending Raith down to the second division for the first time since 1987. Raith would come straight back up to the first division under player manager Antonio Calderon, but it was no secret that the club was short of money. The money from the club's European run was spent on turning Starks Park into an all-seater stadium due to the rules for the Scottish Premiership requiring a minimum 10,000 capacity all-seater stadium. I go into detail on this in a previous video which you can watch later, or now, I'm not your dad, so the club couldn't put this money towards the playing squad or other areas that needed work. As the 2004-2005 season came around, Raith were given an offer they felt they couldn't refuse. £300,000 from Claude Anelka to become their manager and director of football. Now, sometimes you hear about players and managers taking a pay cut to join the club, but how many have actually paid the club to join? Well, that's what Claude did. Anelka's role as not only a player agent but also a manager and director of football meant he could mould the club the way he wanted, and he set about making his mark. Signings by Claude mainly came from his clientele, with players such as Hamed Sacco, Amar Ben-Issa, Rudy Punasami, Jack Perry on loan from QPR, Thomas Hayovsky and Boran Tagro all joined the club. Now, with this influx of foreign players, which was the style at the time in Scottish football, it was hoped they would fire Raith up the leagues and reach Claude's goal of becoming that third force in Scotland. The issue, however, was that players were nowhere near the standard required for even the first division at the time. Many of these players, especially the French ones, coming from regional divisions where a lot of players are amateur. Claude, meanwhile, was willing to back himself up, wanting to bring a total football-style game to the club, citing inspirations from Arsene Wenger, Johan Cruyff and Jean-Claude Swadeau for this plan. Unfortunately, he was not Wenger, Cruyff or Swadeau. His first competitive fixture was a 2-0 loss at home to 3rd Division side Albion Rovers in the Challenge Cup, an Albion Rovers side that would go on to finish second bottom. An opening day defeat to Hamilton would kick off their league campaign before a League Cup defeat away to Stranraer, a 2nd Division side who at least were going to get promoted this time. A 3-2 loss against Clyde would be followed by a 1-0 draw against Airdrie United. With this draw, you would hope that the squad would receive a confidence boost, start to get some points, charge up the leagues, maybe get a few wins. They lost their next 5. 10 games, 9 losses and a single draw saw the end of Claude as a manager, with performances that fans compared to what you would see at the Bedford Park on a Sunday afternoon, and I would know they are not very good. But we're not done yet. Whilst he would leave his role as a manager, he would remain at the club in his other role of being a director of football, adamant that he could still help the club. As part of its original £300,000 investment, he wanted to help youth players come through the academy, so being a director would help in this goal of his. He would never get near any of his goals. A month after stepping down as manager, he would leave his role as director as well. Gordon Dalzell would replace Claude as manager, and upon his departure from the director role, many of the players he brought in had their contracts terminated, and now a squad rebuild was needed after just 4 months of Claude being involved at the club. Raith were as good as relegated by the time Anelka was gone, and this would continue with the club finishing bottom on just 16 points, a full 23 points off of safety. So what were the consequences of this summer of madness at Starks Park? As previously mentioned, Raith would finish last by a long shot and would play the next season in the 2nd Division. Financial issues would continue to get worse, and with the club not owning the ground, the previous owners were threatening to sell the ground to housing developers. The club's fans, however, would be successful in gaining ownership of both the club and Starks Park with help from John Sim, Turnbull Hutton and a community buyout fund supported by Gordon Brown. Raith would recover from this and win the 2nd Division title in 2009, securing a return to the 1st Division for the first time in 4 years, and apart from a minor stint back in the 3rd tier, have remained a constant side in the 2nd tier. During this time, the club have won 2 Challenge Cups and, as of the writing of this video, are in a title race with Dundee United, aiming for a return to the top flight for the first time since 1997. Claude, meanwhile, has kept himself low after being unceremoniously dumped out of Scottish football. Widely regarded as one of the worst managers to grace the game, it wasn't until December 2009 he would become a manager again, taking over at AC St. Louis in the USSF Division 2 Professional League in the United States. He lasted 7 months before being sacked, and the club would fold in 2011. Claude has had spells coaching at different clubs and is currently the under-16 head coach for the PSG Academy in Florida. But if his senior record is anything to go by, I don't think he'll be managing Mbappe anytime soon. Anelka has been honest about his time in Kirkcaldy, however. When he left, he never asked for any of his money back, knowing the situation the club was in before he came in. In an interview with the Courier in 2020, he said, "I came to Raith with good faith and tried to do a good thing, but I didn't do it in the right way. Okay, I'm not the only one, not the first one. I made a mistake and I said I'm sorry. It's not the first time I've said I'm sorry, but I say it again. I made mistakes. That's it, that's all I can say. I would say I regret going to Raith because if I knew then what I know now, it would be different. It is a part of my life, my story, but it made me stronger. I hope Raith Rovers will regain their success, their past success, and they spend time at the top for a long time." Well, Claude, I do hope for the same thing. That's all for this video, and of course I hope you enjoyed it. Who is the worst manager that you remember for your club? Claude Anelka was just before my time following Raith, so for me it would have to be Gary Locke, but leave yours in the comments below. Of course, the usual requests of liking, subscribing, notifications, that sort of stuff, they're all appreciated. I do have, what they call super thanks or whatever in the comments, so you can contribute those if for some reason you want to give me money. The next video I will see you in, I don't know when because uni deadlines and house moving, but there will be videos, don't worry, I will be back. Sound like the Terminator there. I'm just rambling now. See you. Bye.